Hello and welcome to ChatDPS. I'm back. So, hello everybody. For those of you that may have missed me, I don't think you did, not really, did you? Anyway, look, today we've got a really exciting sort of episode brought up for you. Adam Cunningham is coming to you live from Adelaide, where he's been the premier speaker at one of the events down there. Adam Green is live from one of his customer premises, and I'm coming to you live from my home where I'm a bit less infectious to other people. Anyway, so look, we've got three things that we want to talk about this week. The first and foremost is Microsoft vulnerabilities. Let's talk about that to begin with. We'll follow that up with some interesting sort of observations about WordPress, and then we're going to have a talk about some CISO things, what's actually going on in the world of CISOs. So let's keep you interested. Let's bat straight into it. So there's been some Microsoft vulnerabilities this week, and the key message here, gents, is back up, do your patching, and make sure you're going well for it, because there's a couple of things that have gone really badly for Microsoft this last week. Adam Green, do you want to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, so as we see, Patch Tuesday, we get the latest updates on the CVEs from Microsoft. This time there was 168, which is not a record, but not to be sniffed at. But most alarmingly in this one, there were 3 active exploits or active vulnerabilities that are being exploited on Windows Defender, which is to be paid attention to because there are a lot of organizations that are using a Windows Defender strategy. 2 of the 3 have, one of the 3 has been patched. 2 of the 3 are still actively exploitable and in the wild, being exploited in the wild. And then we've also got SharePoint has one actively exploited in the wild vulnerability right now. So the call to action on this one is to absolutely review the Patch Tuesday list and patch everything that you can. And, we have our mechanisms for sectioning off and protecting, virtually patching the stuff that we can't patch due to interoperability challenges. But I think the days of saying that doesn't work for us, we can't patch, well and truly over, especially in like the current geopolitical climate and how any of these known vulnerabilities are being used for irrational actors. And someone who knows a lot about irrational actors is Adam Cunningham.
That's a really mean thing to say to an Irish person. We're very rational.
My Lord.
You had to go Irish.
I will say, interestingly enough, this goes back, we say it every single week around just keeping the basics working, right? All the stuff that isn't sexy, make sure that you're on top of what you're utilizing. You have an asset list of everything that you're using. You understand where it's at, when it needs to be patched. Surprisingly enough, with the vulnerabilities that have come out over this Patch Tuesday, if you are a company that is miles behind and still using 2006 and a few other servers, you're actually good. No problems. Life is good. You can't be hit with any of these issues. Millions of others, but not these ones.
That's security by obscurity, isn't it? Is that what we call it?
It is what it is. There's times where I speak to CEOs and they make me smile because they're like, yes, our 22-year-old architecture isn't affected. And you're like, okay, that's true, but yeah, it's not a record, but it is interesting because right now a lot of companies utilize SharePoint. The Defender thing is quite interesting as well, because one of the exploits that's being actively used works on one version of Defender and not the other. So if you are utilizing it as an enterprise and you're not paying the extra Defender license on your Microsoft licensing, then one of these issues is the one that's going to affect you. And what that means is you're effectively using free antivirus as opposed to enterprise-grade antivirus. So something to remember is CISO that is easily missed.
Yes.
So the point here, gents, is to get things in your test environment as quickly as possible, because this is real, right? I mean, this stuff is real. I mean, we're living in we are living in interesting times.
We are living in interesting times.
And we need.
But we've been doing this for 20 years, right? Like you have your patch cycle, you put it through every single fortnight, every single month, whatever it is you want to do. And then you patch in.
I guess the only difference is with the current geopolitical climate, where we should shorten those windows to 72 hours for certain applications where we don't worry about interoperability, because That's the advice we're getting from the intelligence community, right?
Yep,
Right.
yep. And if we're in a world where we have regulatory pain, that is exactly what happens. But from what I have seen in the market, if there's no regulatory pain, it is when they can.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to say regulatory because Robert's not with us. So we say whatever we want.
We're
Allegedly.
unrestrained. We're unrestrained,
Yeah.
allegedly.
No, you're
Allegedly.
supposed to be the adult supervision, Nick.
Yeah. Mate, if you're looking to me for adult supervision, then we're all in trouble. I want to move on, if that's okay, because the WordPress supply chain, now, it pretty much, I mean, I think we've had this conversation before where we kind of understand, I mean, WordPress is in the news pretty much every day if you go looking hard enough for it. But this time there's a reversal of fortunes, right? So there's something interesting here. So again, Adam Green, would you like to sort of like give us a heads up about what's actually going on with this new WordPress issue? The latest.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot to decipher. So I'll just give you the TLDR. What's happened is a bad actor has purchased an organization that owned a bunch of plugins. 30 plugins is what it looks like. And they've made them injectable plugins, and hundreds of thousands of plugins have been downloaded, and they're now actively in the wild attached to websites. So we, in the show notes, will actually put, because I'm not going to rattle off the 30 or so affected plugins right now, but we'll put in the show notes what those 30 or so affected plugins are. The call to action for everyone is to have a look at, if you use WordPress, one, shame on you, and two, have a look at the list and see if you've got any of the
It just
any of
offended
the
about
affected
half the
plugins.
population, half the business population of the world.
Yeah, if we're not upsetting people, we're not doing a good enough job, is what we say.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, have a look at the plugin list and make sure you don't have those plugins active anymore. What WordPress has done is actually, I jest with the slap on the wrist, sort of.
Kind of, sort of.
Just not just, but so WordPress have done a very good job. They've gone in, they've removed the affected plugins. So all you need to do is just check that plugin list and make sure you don't run those anymore.
Okay. So
And
43%.
what we've seen,
of
43%.
I'm pretty close with 50 though.
So 43% of websites in the world are run on WordPress.
WordPress.
Run on WordPress. Yeah, it's estimated there's hundreds of thousands of affected sites out there. So it's if
Careful
only
out there,
5
boys and
people
girls.
pay
This is
attention.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam. I mean, some of the vulnerabilities that are going to be exploited through some of these things here now. If you've got this kind of thing in the wild, what do you It's kind of like where do you begin? But I mean, what's the one thing that you would sort of like say? Well, look, you've got to check for this particular thing.
There's a number of add-ons to WordPress that you can have, which will help secure the site and stop the type of attacks that these things have. So again, good hygiene, put in the right security controls at the very, very start. Make sure that you're in control of your environment at all times, have monitoring and multi-factor, and the correct plugins. You can find online a whole number of guides that will show you, and write-ups and white papers that will show you good plugins that will keep your site safe. This is an interesting one because WordPress is always in the news because everyone uses WordPress. And so it's one of those things where it's worth attacking because so many people are on it. And this is interesting because it wasn't even an attack per se. And for everyone out there that says cybercrime doesn't pay, they bought a whole company. Legitimately bought a whole company.
It wasn't a little one.
No, it wasn't a little one, and it was a profitable one. They bought it to burn it.
So this is attacked by the supplier, not the supplier being attacked, which is something we don't always see. The other thing to be really wary of in this, when something like this hits the market, phishing campaigns targeting users of WordPress ramp up dramatically. And because we actually have something that people need to pay attention to, those phishing campaigns can be very convincing. So be very vigilant about anything that comes to you from WordPress.
Okay.
And make sure that it makes sense. Look at where the sender's actually coming from.
Or a vendor with
potentially
a silver
ignore
bullet.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is
silver bullets as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So be vigilant, people. This is real. It's not pleasant. It'll hurt, and it's going to affect a lot of people. So look out for that list and make sure that the people that are in your organization that run this stuff are aware of it, and they're probably all over it already. If not, then you're kind of in trouble. But let's talk about something else now. Interestingly, I've got two CISOs on the line. I'm used to having a lawyer as well to keep me in line more than anything else, but. But yeah, this last story came out over the weekend, and it's talking about the CISO and how the CISO is an evolving role, a maturing role, if you like, in the organization. And reporting lines are under review, and it depends upon which industry sector you're in as to what the reporting lines are and whether you actually own strategy or whether you do whatever. Now, then, what this piece was actually suggesting was that CISOs are now being burnt. I mean, they're burning out very, very quickly.
No, your Freudian slip was correct. Yeah.
They're being burnt at the stake. And there's the flip side to it. Yes, so people are burning out, but they're also the sort of, I mean, the reason for why they're getting burnt out is because people are actively trying to kill them. But I thought it might be an interesting perspective because we've got two different people doing two different things in two different ways. So Adam Green, you sort of like left your role as a CISO to become a business owner. And Adam Green, you left your role as a business owner to become a CISO. And I'm just wondering what on earth would have driven somebody, two very, very intelligent people to have gone in diametrically opposite directions.
Who's
And
the
we
other
both spoke
person?
to each other
Who said
about it.
anything about being intelligent? Yeah.
Adam Green is two people now.
Yeah. You picked up on that. That's all right. I was going to let it slide.
That's why he said two intelligent people, because it was you both.
Yeah. But you know what Nick, so Adam Cunningham, can we please reserve to be friends after this finishes? Because
100%.
we both might upset each other in the next 10 minutes.
So go on, Adam. You left a perfectly functioning business to go back into a global CISO role and take up the politics, the external problems, as well as the internal political problems that you're facing at this moment in time. I mean, what does that say about you as an individual?
Look, I've never said I was anything less than a sadist, but I think it's important to note that I left the business world with dreams of retirement. It just didn't work out that way. I have to still work a bit, but I'm very fortunate where I am. So there's a number of issues that CISOs have all over the place. And Adam Green can attest to this. I've been in these positions previously, where you are locked into a very specific role function, and you're not allowed out of that box. And a lot of CISOs, and as I said previous to the show, I'm going to make up a statistic completely and say 8 out of 10 because it feels like most. CISOs are actually security ops directors, and it's just an operational role. They deal with operational day to day, and they'll say that they can't really plan because things just come up. Now, if you say that you're in a role where you can't really plan because things just come up, you're not in a strategic role.
Right.
And what's happening now is there's a lot of attacks that are going on, and the CISO that have been brought on for the operational CISO type role are now getting to the end of the incidents phases, and then the next part is all strategic. And what's happening is they're getting stuck in with exactly what you said, the politics, the board. They're working at that next level, which they may have some expertise in, they may not have some expertise in. They're thrown in the deep end and they're considered to be the right person by the board. They might not be considered to be the right person by the executive, but by the boards they are. They're like, we have a CISO, he's meant to show us or she's meant to show us exactly where we're going. So we've had this hit, what's our direction? And they've been put into the limelight for the first time in a lot of the times. And it's a very stressful place to be.
Yeah. So Adam Green, I'm taking it that you're the flip side on this, right?
Yeah. So it depends who you ask. Some people say I left my job as a CISO to start my own company because I was such an asshole I became unemployable. Other people are like, oh yeah, he saw a gap in the market and he jumped. But no, the truth is I do see a gap in the market, and keep in mind, Adam Cunningham is working with a global organization that has a very complex federated challenge, you need a CISO there. You need someone steering the ship. You need technology leadership from the top. I think what we see, and 8 out of 10 CISOs, I'd say, look, Adam and I talk with a lot of CISOs. They're part of our network, right? And I'd say more than 9 out of 10 bitch and moan about what they do day to day and how stressed they are and how much agency over control they've lost. And it's not as bad as we make it sound. However, I think that a lot of organizations have gone for that CISO role and that they needed it a while ago, because back when Adam and I started in security leadership, we were the heretics running around talking about this thing called security. Back in my day, and we were like, it's a conflict of interest if the CISO reports to the CIO, because the CIO is like, get out of my way, security is just a blocker. And I think I've mentioned it on the podcast a couple of times, where you used to go to a CFO, a CEO, and the board and mention cybersecurity, and they'd look like deer in the headlights. But you fast forward to today, and now there's a positive and a negative to this next comment. You fast forward to today, and you have a lot of understanding of cybersecurity and the challenge at the executive level and at the board level, which means when we had a CISO there as a cybersecurity evangelist, that role was required, but no longer do you need someone to champion cyber inside a lot of organizations. And that's where a lot of CISOs are getting stuck in this political warfare, because a lot of this, before a CISO used to be able to say, this is how things are, and you were educating and everybody was listening. But now there are a lot of executives who know pretty much as is required to know about security as a CISO is telling them. So in those scenarios, those organizations don't need a full-time CISO. They still need security leadership, but on a programmatic basis. And I think people who are sitting in roles where they're getting brought in, instead of being the chief information security officer, they're the chief of incidents and something or other. So it's just multiple hats, because there's not enough for them to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So
other than fighting fires.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that sort of like, we are beginning to see an evolving role. It's a maturing role within an organization. I think you've just really outlined exactly, sort of like the points are that we've moved from this point when we're now moving up to here.
We no longer need a CISO to be the evangelist. It's now get action happening, and that's where operational stuff kicks in.
You got to introduce me to these companies where they've got COOs and CFOs that are up on cybersecurity. I think it'll be awesome. I want to meet them. It's going to be the best conversation in the world.
I'll meet 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think the burnout, like if you look at the average tenure for CISO over most places is like 4 years.
Well, it's reduced to 18 months now, isn't it?
Oh, 18 months or less. Wow.
Yeah.
So
remember back in our day, it was 4 years.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because if you have a look at a bit more context in those statistics, when was the CISO brought on? What had happened by the time they had left? Some CISO are brought on during an incident, like a large incident, and then they last their 18 months and they're gone. They were brought in as patsy, or as someone to initially build some structure around what they did. Once they had that structure, then they didn't need it anymore. So it depends on how much the company inwardly values its data and its outcome from a cybersecurity perspective. A lot of companies now are realizing that it doesn't matter if you're huge or small, you're a target. And so the need for CISO have gone up. But because we've built a culture of operational CISO, the gap is strategic CISO. And finding CISOs that are comfortable in the boardroom as they are comfortable in an incident room, war room, is very difficult to find these days.
Yeah. And the 2 examples you just gave, bringing on during an incident or bringing on post-incident to set everything up, we call both of those the Saving Private Ryan effect, where they storm the beach in Normandy and get mowed down, and then they go, oh, maybe we should have done it different.
Maybe there was a better way. So, I mean, I guess the pickup for me is, this is an evolving role. Times are changing. We're seeing regulators dictating more and more what they should be doing. And the other point, I guess, is the fact that we're beginning to see security as an enabler within the business rather than a detractor. So
Absolutely.
so that's something that we do need to get around to. Gentlemen, that is ChatDPS. That was this week. That was the week that was. And thank you so much for joining me again. It's great to be back, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you again next week. Thank you for joining us. Speak soon.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nick.
Cheers.